Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed since last time. Seriously, somebody get Richard Dawkins the hell away from Twitter. The public meltdown of one of the most prominent ambassadors for science and reason of our time continued last week on the Twitter account of Richard Dawkins. Dawkins began by sharing a reasonable and fairly widely held opinion on abortion restrictions in Ireland, and within a few hours he had tweeted that it would be immoral not to abort fetuses afflicted with Down syndrome. Will somebody please take his phone? Dawkins on Twitter is like a snootier, less empathetic version of Spock at this point. Anyway, this now concludes the lighthearted portion of the video because the rest of it's about Ferguson. Missouri becomes the land of cops killing black people. Before I get into Ferguson proper, I feel obligated to mention the death of Powell, a 25-year-old black man who was shot to death by police in St. Louis on August 19th, 10 days after and less than 4 miles from the killing of Michael Brown. According to police, Powell had stolen donuts and energy drinks from a convenience store and was armed with a knife when 2 St. Louis police officers arrived to confront him. A cell phone video released of the incident shows Powell appearing agitated and taunting the cops to shoot him, which they do, without ever attempting to disarm or subdue him using non-lethal means. But hey, let's have a little sympathy for the cops here in this situation. I mean, after all, Powell was a big, scary black man with a knife, and they were police officers with guns and tasers and batons and self-defense training, and there were twice as many of them. What else were they supposed to do? Ferguson police do everything wrong. I can't help but feel that things in Ferguson would not have gotten so bad so quickly had the police department not immediately resorted to this thin blue line bullshit. Instead of coming out as soon as possible and admitting that one of their own had fucked up and promising to make it right, they opted instead for a military-style show of force, firing tear gas grenades into crowds of protesters and arresting journalists who were attempting to cover the events. Plus, they dragged their feet releasing the name of the officer, Darren Wilson, who had shot Mike Brown, and generally acted as though they were far more concerned with covering their own asses than with responding to the needs of their community. Stir in the history of racial tension in Ferguson, as well as the recent other incidents of racially charged police brutality from around the country, and you've got yourself one shitty situation all around. Because racism is still a problem, apparently. Hey, remember last year when the Supreme Court struck down the pre-clearance section of the Voting Rights Act because institutionalized racial discrimination is no longer an issue in these United States? Yeah, about that. The death of 18-year-old black man Michael Brown at the hands of a white police officer has done more than bring the long simmering racial tensions of his community to national attention. From the behavior of the Ferguson Police Department to the reactions to the outbursts of violence and vandalism in the wake of the Michael Brown shooting that have been shared on social media, the fallout from Ferguson has served as a useful, if depressing, reminder of how prevalent racism still is in our society today and of how many different ways there are to be a racist asshole, right, Hercules? Ferguson has something to enrage everyone. Whether you're concerned about the militarization of local police departments, abuse of authority and use of excessive force on the part of police officers, how pervasive racism can cause inequalities in the enforcement of the law, or just how superficial and tenuous the civil rights advances of the last 50 years seem in light of these events, the Ferguson situation has what it takes to infuriate and demoralize you. And if you're not troubled in some way by what's been happening in Ferguson the last few weeks, it is probably because you just haven't been paying close enough attention. And if you're an American and you haven't been paying attention to Ferguson, why the fuck not? The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.